So we've got Shawn, our performance expert, to tell us what makes some gift finders work lightning fast and which ones glacial slow.
There are a couple of different ways to build one of these. And in essence, we're looking at a fancy, engaging way to do filters and faceted navigation. A gift finder is basically that, but it's made a lot more fun. So there's kind of two ways we can do this. Either a brand could build this experience in-house with their existing search engine, or there are some third-party plugins. Generally, our recommendation for most heavy, engaging UX work is for the brand to build it themselves. It's not that hard to do it yourself if you already have built a faceted nav and filter PLP. And this is a pretty PLP with, we'll say, gamified or sequenced filters. So this Lego one is a really fun example showing, give a slider for age. As we go through it, it feels like a game. It's very cute. It's engaging. But in the background, all you're really doing here is creating a query so that by the time the user gets through this little wizard, we can submit an API call to get the right product list, which is what's happening here. And we come to a result set. So this looks just like a search page would look, or a product list page with the filters applied that you've selected through the experience.
Now, one thing I notice when I'm browsing on product list pages, applying filters, sometimes there's like that blank page and that skeleton and something going in the background, or you get an experience like IKEA where it feels almost infinite. So what's the difference between those two?
That first page load is where we see the biggest delay. Often, if you land on a page and the brand has built the product finder themselves, they can do things like prepare the initial landing so that everything's server-side rendered and there's no extra calls, no extra JavaScript that needs to run. This is a little more challenging. You need to have an in-house dev team to implement that. Alternatively, there's a lot of plugins in the market that allow you to, plop in a product finder and you feed it your whole product set. That one will, to the point you've just made here, have that initial boot time that takes a while, and often brands will, call your attention away from that or use a spinner or something. But if we can get the products and the filters in front of the user right away, then that's common. A second ago, I just talked about how a brand might feed all of its data into the product finder library. And maybe that's useful, but you probably don't need to be able to filter on attributes that'll never be seen, like UPC codes and, next inventory arrival date. And so we can build a custom set of attributes to give to the product finder, so that we're not bloating the payload that's going to be sent back to the client every time.
Is it better for performance to build in-house versus using a third-party app?
It's usually better to build in-house. Many teams aren't going to have the bench of developers or the time or the bandwidth to take this on themselves. There are some compelling third-party tools that allow you to build a product finder and just embed it in your site. That whole just embedded in your site likely means there's a large JavaScript script that needs to run or an iframe that gets embedded in. And so when the user lands on that product finder page from maybe a button on your homepage, they're going to be staring at either a loading screen or a white screen for a while. And so there's a few ways to make that a little bit more performant. We're kind of going to be handcuffed by the service provider, by the vendor. But you could do things like preload the JS of that application. You could even get it ready from the previous page with things like speculation rules, which allows the browser to preload the subsequent page when a user, say, hovers over a link, for instance. Or we can just pre-connect that third-party domain. Like if you know it's going to be hosted by their CDN of the vendor instead of on your own CDN, then we can get that domain ready. And generally work with the vendor to minimize the amount of product data that you're sending. So you don't need to send the whole list of every attribute for every product. If you're going to be doing a gift finder and it's only gifts up to $100, you don't need to send all of your products that go up to the thousands of dollars, for instance. We want to send, correctly sized image assets, not the high res PDP versions. Treat it more like a product list page. In terms of like the attributes you're going to need, it might be price, name, number of reviews and ratings and things like that. You don't need the long descriptions, et cetera, et cetera.
So thanks, Shawn and Yottaa, for providing these performance tips. If you want your fastest season ever, Yotta's got software and services to get you in shape for Black Friday. And for more tips, check out Yotta's guide to holiday readiness in an uncertain economy. The link is in the description.